Check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Dave. Good morning, Rodney. We're going to jump right in. Welcome to Power Fridays. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. This morning, we have the pleasure and the honor of speaking, having a great conversation with the husband, father, actor, comedian, and now author, Rodney Perry. And he has an amazing story. There's some other things to his resume, but we're going to share that in the spirit and have a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Rodney.
It's an honor, man. I know you have a choice over who you talk to, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. And good morning, Dave. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Great. And Rodney, I know that you live in Atlanta, Georgia right now, but that isn't where your story starts, and that's definitely not how your story ends. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and where you came from and why you enjoy doing what you do?
Wow, that's a lot. Who am I? Well, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, Illinois. Around my junior year of high school, my family picks up and we moved to Monroe, Louisiana. My mother, who had been in an abusive relationship with my stepfather, just decided to leave one day. And that was a pivotal moment for me because I thought I was cool. You know, I'm coming from the big city and going to little bitty Monroe, Louisiana. And I got the rude awakening when I moved there that, you know, I wasn't as cool as I thought I was. So that, and then, you know, he finished high school there and joined the Navy in the 90s, early 90s, and joined the United States Navy. I had a baby on the way and I wanted to be able to take care of my baby. And so I joined the Navy and I moved out to, the Navy takes me to New Orleans and California for boot camp in California, and my first duty station in New Orleans. And it was kind of always in the back of my mind to do comedy. So I was trying to get back to California. And so I ended up in the Bay Area, my second tour. And you know, your passion kind of just finds its way. And I knew I wanted to do comedy. At this point, I'm almost 8 years into the Navy, and we packed up and we got out of the military in 1998, and we've been pursuing entertainment ever since.
Oh, wonderful. That's a great story. And of course, I'm learning a little bit about you as well. And I know this month is the month of May, and it's Stroke Awareness Month. And I know that you have a book called Rodney Perry, Moments on My Journey. And I know we don't have a lot of time this morning, but if you could just share with us in that 20 plus span career of being an entertainer. I know you work with some, you know, well-known people, and you're well-known yourself, to your credit, being in movies and being a filmmaker. And you've had, of course, you know, hearing about your journey, and to this point, you are now considered, you're a miracle person. I mean, in my eyes, you're just a walking miracle. And stroke survivor and a COVID-19 survivor. I know that those were crazy experiences.
And also a Black man in America, you know, so for 3 times survivor. You know, so to unpack the stroke, so my 46th birthday happened in just 5 years ago. So I'm 50 now, I'll be 50, almost 6 now. So I had my 46th birthday, and I think I'm feeling good, you know, and touring, going on tour, doing hustle and bustle of this life, and I get a call. I'm on the road in Denver, Colorado, and I get a phone call from my buddy, a good friend of ours that had a stroke. And as he was telling me her journey, I was like, yo, I feel like that right now. So I talked to him, and then I got off the phone with him and talked to another buddy that's in medicine. He's like, Rodney, go get your blood pressure checked. So I went to Walmart, stuck my arm in the sleeve at Walmart. My blood pressure was 221 over 140. Yeah, that's the face, Dave. 221 over 140. Now, I should have went to the emergency room right then, but I didn't. I went to the comedy club and I did 2 shows that night. And I remember thinking to myself, if I die tonight, I want to die on stage. Right. It was not the smartest move. My brother, who was working with me that night, took me to the emergency room after the show, and I walked in the VA. I'm a veteran. I walked in the VA hospital, and I didn't leave there for like 60 days. I actually had the stroke at the hospital, and my left arm became contorted. I lost the ability to walk, so I had to. So I was in ICU for 8 days. I come out of ICU, and I spend the next 50 days or so learning how to walk again and learn how to use my body again. And so it was a life-changing ordeal. And you know, we talk about God. I had conversations with God. I remember vividly asking God, why me? And God clearly to me was like, why not you? Why not you get to tell a story, Rodney Perry? I said, okay. I said, well, God, what am I to learn? And again, very clearly, he said, well, what have you been trying to get? Your whole career, what have you been trying to achieve? Well, I want to be a big star. I've been trying to get out to that thing, way out in the distance. I'm trying to get there. I've been running toward that my whole career. He said, okay, what do you want now? At that time, I was confined to a wheelchair. My arm was still contorted. All I could think of was not getting to that thing. I just wanted to take a single step. I said, God, if you can just let me take a single step, I'll be okay. And God was like, that's it. You've been trying to get out there to that thing. But if you could take a single step, you can get to that thing. And that was my life lesson. And that's the thing that keeps echoing in my head. You know, when you get ahead of yourself, sometimes is that just take a single step. Take a single step. And that's where I live my life now.
Well, Dave, I know you have a lot to unpack with that message, and thank God for you, and thank God for speaking to you, and thank you for listening to God. Do you have any questions, Dave, for Rodney?
Yeah, well, thank you for your service, first of all, Rodney, to our country. And that last comment you made caught me off guard. Like I was about to get emotional myself, because I just, man, that's there are certain things that when you hear it, it's needed in the moment. So yeah, the single step thing is important. Sometimes I guess we just need to be reminded, right? But I think I did have a question, and after you said that, it kind of shifted my mind and scrambled it. But there's a transitionary thing that happens, I think, when, essentially when the crap hits the fan and God gets a hold of us.
Yes, sir.
We start to see things differently. And I find that when we go through stuff like that and he calls us out like that, it's usually because he's trying to shape us. He's trying to mold us and make us different, make us new, right? As he said. So what, I think back to the time, going back when you were in the Navy, and, they almost sound like you had the passion erupting inside you then, right? And things were changing. I imagine you had like something inside you that's like, I really want to move to this, but I feel stuck in this situation. I'm not sure how to handle it. I bet there were probably multiple moments where that was happening to you.
Yes.
So tell us about how, what that struggle was like, and even all the way up to when you had the stroke and you had you were kind of looking at life differently. Like what were those challenges like, and how did you kind of get through those transitionary periods?
I mean, great question, Dave, man. As I sit here before you today at 51, right? And I look back over my life, life is a series of wins, right? I think we're always winning, right? And if you're not at a win, you're on the way to a win, right? So if you're not at a win, you're on the way. You're en route. God is constantly keeping you en route. And sometimes when you're en route to a win, you're like, well, God, when I'm gonna win again, right? And so as I take inventory of my life, every decade, I get a win. Every decade. And so those 10 years between the wins, those are some tough times sometimes, right? So whether that was, in the 90s, in my Navy career, was it deciding, or not the decision of being a comedian, but the act of being a comedian, like to get in the entertainment business. I don't have an uncle that was a singer. I didn't have a brother that used to do a vaudeville act. I'm first generation entertainer. So when I tell my mother, who is my best friend, that I'm gonna get out the military, she said, well, first of all, you ain't that funny. My mother told me this. This lady told me over a 2-hour conversation every reason I shouldn't move forward. And I told her, I said, Mama, I didn't call for your permission. I wanted to let you know what I was doing. She told me about 2 weeks later, she said, Rodney, I did what I did because if you couldn't take my pressure, you weren't ready for the pressure of the world. So I make the move in 1998, pack up my family. How selfish was I? Dave, I was the worst. I'm married with kids, pack up, take them to LA. The security of the military gone, the money gone. I know I got to do it though. I didn't ask anybody, I just went. How selfish was I? Me and my wife was talking recently, and I was like, I'm sorry, because I didn't even ask you. And here you are standing next to me 25 years later. But I knew I had to go. So we pack up in 98, we moved to LA. Immediately I started doing all this other stuff just to make ends meet. I worked temp jobs. I worked at a model agency. I worked at, I took a job. The military continues to help you. I took a temp job at the VA. And it was crazy because I befriended a vet and he and I would have lunch. And he came to me one day, he said, Rodney, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm doing data entry upstairs. He's like, no. Why are you in Los Angeles? I said, well, I came here to be a comedian. I want to be an actor maybe someday. I don't know. He said, well, you have to leave here today. You cannot stay here and do what you want to do. You have to leave. I took that at face value and I left. I walked out of that place. The year is 2000. I walked out of that place and I haven't done anything with entertainment since then. But it wasn't easy. you meet people, you make relationships over the years, and you fast forward, and that was 10 years later. You're further along than you were, but you're nowhere near there, right? And then you get another win. You book a movie, you book a TV show. You know, Monique decides you're a good guy and says, right now, I want you to be on my TV show. Another win. 10 years later, 10 more years later, I moved to Atlanta ahead of the world. The whole world is here now. So God took and plucked me out. You said something earlier, Dave, that God is molding us. I use a similar analogy. If God is the ultimate creator, he's kind of always buffing us up. He's kind of always buffing us up. And he won't present you until he knows you're ready. He's buffing you up. He's shining you up. By the time he decides to show you to the world, you're brilliant. It's been a great journey, the good times, the bad times. I would trade one moment. I would trade one moment. And, you know, even the stroke. I mean, I learned some life lessons during the stroke. And you have a bit of survivor's remorse. You know, I meet stroke patients that still have deficit on their bodies. And again, I'm asking God, well, how did I get to walk away like this? Why not you, Rodney? Why not you?
God's miracles in the making. And Rodney Perry, Moments on My Journey. And I know that that's the book we can get. Mine is on its way. I'm so excited. And you went through that Job experience. That's what I call it, the Job experience.
Oh, they didn't do me like Job, but yeah. I'll take it. No.
Yes, and then last year, we had the COVID, and I was like sitting back. I said, "COVID just hit. Rodney getting ready to go." I said, "He knows he's a kid."
I didn't go nowhere.
No. Rodney's getting ready to go on stage, and I said, from the doctor reports and the medical reports, you are at risk to be in public, having recovered from the stroke. I was like, what were you thinking when you went on stage? And I'm not sure if you being on stage in public is how No,
that's not how it happened. To be honest, so the COVID happened. So July last year, we had been inside for months, and I found out a couple of things about myself. I thought I was doing comedy for the people. And I found out during the COVID pandemic that I had been doing comedy for myself, and I needed it. I needed it for my own psyche. I needed it to be a productive member of society. But my bout with COVID had nothing to do with comedy. So I got kind of sick, like just one day out of the blue, just like, my throat was hurting, I was chills and fever. And I was like, I feel bad. I go to the hospital, they test me, they say, you're fine. No COVID, COVID negative. I'm like, cool. So I go home, a couple of days pass, I'm feeling better. My wife is so funny. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to have a beer with my buddies. I'll be back. She's like, did you just have a COVID scare? I said, ain't nobody scared of COVID. I'm out of here. And that day, somebody scratched me. And I don't know how I got it, but somebody from that day infected me. And but to be honest, Janelle, I was in the hospital for 14 days, and I never contemplated my mortality. I never thought that I'd never, not for once. So The only moment that I started to worry is when I got back home. I spent 14 days in the hospital. I go back home, and now I can see the toll COVID-19 is taking on my body. I have diminished lung capacity. I can barely walk across my living room, right? I'm on oxygen. And I'm worried for the first time. After 14 days in the hospital, I'm worried at home. And I don't know if I shared with y'all, I talked about my mom, but we lost my mom in the interim. We lost my mom maybe 3 years ago. And my wife and my daughter have shared with me that they feel like my mother be walking around the house. I said, first of all, if my mother's gonna reveal herself to anybody, it's gonna be me. Cause that's my homie, that's my, yeah. Anyway, so I get home from COVID. Oh, another thing that's relevant. My cousin from Chicago, she's in medicine, so she was checking on me all through my bout with COVID. And she and I would have these cool conversations when I was in the hospital. And I asked her one day, I was like, how many summers do you want to live? How many more summers? She said, Rodney, why you ask me that stupid question? I said, I want 30 more summers. And she was like, boy, stop being stupid. This is coming together. Bear with me. So I just got home. I've been home. I'm starting to get a little afraid because my body is not working. My breathing is labored. I got to use oxygen. I cannot walk across the living room. I'm laying down one morning on the couch upstairs, and I get a phone call. I think it was a phone call. I felt like I was on the phone. It's my mother. It's my mother. It's not her voice when she passed away. It's a younger version of her, but I know it's my mother. And we talked. So during that time, while I'm communicating with my mother who's passed, I said, Mama, why would you reveal yourself to them and not me? He said, don't be stupid, Rodney. My mother would always say stuff like that. So that in itself made me know this is her. Then she said, oh, and I believe we talked about more than this, but what I remember, then she says to me, oh, by the way, you're gonna get those 30 more summers. I believe that the people that love us, if we need them, they will help us. And I believe that's why, like, my brother has had dreams and stuff about my mom all the time, but I think he needs her more than I did. And in that moment, I feel like she came to me and we had that conversation. And it was very real. It was so crystal clear, like I could hear her voice. So again, man, it's just so much to unpack,
Yes, and I know you were generous with your time this morning. I thank you so much for being. We only had 30 minutes for you to share your story, and like I said, I prayed for you when you were going through your stroke, and I prayed for you when you were in the hospital with COVID. And Rodney, when you are a praying woman and you had the world praying for you, and you've been to travel to different countries, people know you all over the world. We were all praying for you. So knowing that your mother was there with you all the way, knowing that I felt like my prayers worked, but I was like, well, thank God for his mama. Thank God for your mom. Thank God for your wife. Thank God for your children. And, thank God for you, You
know what it was like? It was like dying and getting a seat at your own funeral. Like when I had my stroke, because social media is still going. People are reminiscing about me. And like one time Rodney told me, and that time, we used to do, I was like, hey, hey, stop. I'm still here.
Still here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, crazy, man. But I guess we got to come back. I come back. I got stories, so we got stuff.
And are there anything else you want to share, David, before we go? Rodney has to be on set, so he's on his way too.
Okay. Well, no, there was. I just, as he's talking, I'm like thinking about. Ironically, my mom bought me this shirt. Says life is is a journey, right? And have the courage to follow his path. Wow. Right. And it's by the shirt brand. I feel like this is like a marketing ad or something, but it's Caruso, which I guess in the Greek means preach. And so it's just, as I listen to your stories, I almost feel like you're a walk-in example of what this shirt is talking about, because you had the courage to follow the path that God had you on. And it's like, I had somebody share with me and, a story about how he is polishing us and shaping us. And, even to add to that, like he'll put us in the fire so that we can be molded. Right. Mm-hmm. It's like in those moments where we're struggling. But, I think you got to continue sharing your story, Rodney. And I think that might be the reason God's given you those 30 extra summers, because like just 25 minutes with you and I feel impacted like big time. So, thank you for everything that you've done for this country and for coming on and sharing your story with us. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. So.
That's definitely part of my next chapter. I'm kind of taking steps into the motivational speaking space. And, it's like starting over almost, because I don't really know how to do it, but I know that my story moves people. So I'm just going to tell it until people start listening.
Future TEDx stage. Yeah. Award-winning actor and performer, Rodney Perry. I do thank you so much for your time this morning. I do appreciate you. I thank God for you. Thank God for your wife and your family being your biggest cheerleaders. And I'm one of your cheerleaders as well. And I will continue to pray for you, my brother. And I thank you so much for sharing this time and this moment in history with you. And you can share about your book and where people can find you, and then we'll wrap it up.
I'm easy to find. My website is rodneyperry.com. All the social media is Rodney Perry Live. The book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. If you hit the social media, I'll send you a signed copy. I'll mail it myself. But we're just blessed, man. We're just so blessed. And I guess I'll leave y'all with this, is try to stay in a perpetual state of thankfulness. Because even when things don't appear to be going well, my mother had a phrase she would tell me, because I was always kinetic. I was always trying to go. And she said, Rodney, sometimes you're delayed for a reason. She called it divine delay. That sometimes God is slowing you down and keep you out of impending danger ahead. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you're delayed for a reason. And divine delay always pops in my head when I'm driving through traffic and I'm trying to.
So I got a quick story. Oh my gosh, this is a divine moment, I think. But today, as I was just talking to my wife about this very thing, because I got a thing from a friend of mine that talked about how you need to slow down in life, because we feel like we just been going so fast. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I almost feel like it's talking to me. And then I get in the car to go meet somebody for lunch. And the light was turning yellow, and I decided to hit the gas because I want to make this light because I'm already running behind. And just as I was about to cross the line, a truck blows a red light, 40, 50 miles an hour. And I'm like, man, if I was just 10, 20 feet ahead, whatever, I would have been T-boned by that truck. And that could have been bad. And it's like it hit me. I think God was speaking in that moment, because he's like, see, if you move too fast, you don't know what you're coming into. And so it's like, oh, okay, I'm starting. When you start seeing these same messages coming at you. And so I on the phone with my wife, and I'm telling her, it's like, I think we need to slow down because God may be trying to warn us. If we keep going this fast, something's coming. And then you just brought that up.
Divine delay.
Divine delay.
So I think I needed to hear about divine delay because it's happening, I think, right now. Right?
Yeah.
We need to be okay with going slower.
And not even the speed, but sometimes you got to completely stop.
Yeah.
And just to let the delay happen. You know, traffic is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there could be something up there that you are not gonna see. You may never see what you didn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
You may never have any knowledge of it.
Mm-hmm.
But don't get me started. I gotta go.
Yes, you have an appointment. Thank you so much. And Rodney Perry, one step at a time. Continue to take one. Thank you for educating us today about one step, divine delay, and knowing that it's your time when it's your time. So
Indeed.
Staying connected to God is all we need. So thank you so much again for your time this morning. I appreciate you, brother, my walking miracle friend. And I will continue to pray for you on your journey. And I look forward to getting your book, Rodney Perry Moments on My Journey. Thank you so much.
Janelle. David, nice to meet you, sir.
You too, Rodney.
Yeah.
Have a great day. God bless. Thanks. Bye.